All right, last week we brought you rookies that we expected to break out in year one. Guys that we were planting a flag on, saying these guys will have great rookie years. And now we're going to bring you some players that I don't want to say we're avoiding, but we do believe that there will be struggles in year one. They might not come out the gate as, absolute fire hot, these top 12 finishes. Super hot fire. We're going to give you two players each, two rookies that we might be avoiding based off of their current ADP and based off of the situation around them.
Right.
Now, again, these are players that we like and that we will probably look to buy maybe this time next year, but we just don't believe in their year one opportunities. So I'll give you my first player, and that is Trey McBride. Now, I went through this offense and I had to look at, target share. How many times has Kyler thrown the ball pretty much since he has been the starter there? I came up with an upside and a floor for Trey McBride, okay? The upside for me is 55 receptions on 68 targets, 550 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That would put him at tight end 17 if we use last year rankings. And his floor is 38 receptions for 380 yards and 1 touchdown. That would be tight end 26. So I still think he finishes as a top 25 tight end as a rookie, but what is that really worth? I mean, really, outside of the top 12 guys at the tight end position, it's not really worth starting most of those players.
Right.
So let me tell you why I am thinking he might struggle as a rookie. Let's talk about the context of a rookie tight end. I looked at the first 3 tight ends off the board for every NFL draft since 2018. The first 3, okay? Now, the list is so big, I can only give you the first 3. There are outliers out there. But let's look at the first 3 each season and where they finished in their first rookie year. All right, in 2018, you can see Goddard, Gesicki, Hurst. The top tight end there was Goddard with tight end 20. In 2019, Noah Fant had a really good year, but the first tight end who was actually drafted was Hawkinson, and he finished tight end 31. 2020, you can see Cole Kmet was the first tight end drafted. He finished tight end 41. This was a really bad tight end class as far as depth goes. In 2021, we have some outliers here with Kyle Pitts finishing as a tight end 6, an absolute unicorn. If anything, this just proves to me again how impressive Kyle Pitts' rookie season was. Then you also had Pat Freiermuth here, who finished tight end 13, which was very impressive in his own right. 3 tight ends who finished in the top 16 in their rookie season. Only 3. And they were all the tight end 1 on their team. Okay? All 3 of those guys who finished in the top 16. Now, the list was much bigger. I couldn't go through all of them. But all of those players were the tight end 1 on their team. Meanwhile, Trey McBride has Zach Ertz right ahead of him on this depth chart. And Zach Ertz just got a 3-year deal. And think about it. In one tight end sets, it's probably going to be Ertz out there. He is the more experienced tight end. He's been in the league for about a decade. He knows this offense. He knows the blocking schemes. He knows what he needs to do to help this team out from the tight end position. Meanwhile, we're probably going to be seeing Trey McBride learn under Zach Ertz, and he's going to have a fantastic career. It might not just be in year one.
Right.
A lot of competition on this roster. You got Hollywood Brown, AJ Green, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz, Max Williams. Don't forget he's still there. James Conner and DeAndre Hopkins will be back after week 7. So again, Trey McBride is a player that I really do love. I mean, I've talked Trey McBride up as a talent. However, it is rare for tight ends to succeed in their rookie year, but most of the time they are given the tight end 1 position to start, and he's not going to be given that. So for me, he's someone I view as a top 10 tight end in the next 1 to 2 years. I think that does happen, but I don't see a Kyle Pitts or a Pat Freiermuth type of rookie season. So, and Kyler really isn't the type to throw it up like Big Ben did to Pat Freiermuth. So if you're going to rely on tight end touchdowns, that's not really the way that Kyler operates in the red zone. Except for DeAndre Hopkins, and I don't really see that Trey McBride is that type of body. So I am not avoiding him. I'm just saying he's going to struggle, and I think the best time to buy him might be next offseason. Okay.
Yeah, we both love Trey McBride coming into the season. It's going to be very interesting to see what he does. My first player to avoid is Jahan Dotson. Once again, we're avoiding just based off first year speculations and what's going to happen. His upside, that have him as wide receiver 48. You can see the stats on the screen here.
That's his upside.
That's his
48.
upside, wide receiver 48, okay. And then floor wide receiver 60. And, I was looking into this. I was thinking, when was the last time Carson Wentz now on this team has ever put up either one wide receiver in the top 15 or just two, maybe in the top 20, top 25. And actually that has only happened once ever, and that was in 2017 with Alshon Jeffrey, right, finishing wide receiver 20, and Nelson Aguilar wide receiver 22, and that was the year Carson Wentz blew up. That was Carson Wentz's breakout year. He finished QB 5. Okay, mm-hmm. So looking back, I was like, wow, he actually has never had a top 15 finish as a wide receiver ever. The highest person to ever finish that was getting thrown the ball from Carson Wentz was Michael Pittman last year, wide receiver 17. So if we can just speculate that Terry is going to be getting all the workload, hypothetically, that Michael Pittman did this past year, he could finish wide receiver 17, even higher in my opinion, because if we can argue that Terry is more talented than Michael Pittman, I think I would say that. I can feel comfortable saying that. I don't know about the community, and obviously he's older and he's been on the team for longer. He was a 3rd-round pick, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the most talented wide receiver Carson Wentz has ever played with. So for me, then I looked at everyone else, he's never produced a wide receiver 2. He hasn't. Nelson Aguilar was on the team when he was at the Eagles. You had, obviously Alshon Jeffrey. When he was with the Colts, there was nobody. T.Y. Hilton was struggling with injuries. Paris Campbell was struggling with injuries, and he just never had that. Not that Jahan Dotson is not talented. It's not that Jahan Dotson, I don't believe, could have a breakout year or anything that can happen. I just don't believe that Carson Wentz can maintain 2 top, at least 35-plus wide receivers in this year. And this is why I'm avoiding Jahan Dotson. It's tough.
I think for me, there's 2 sides to that coin. You pointed out Alshon and Nelson Aguilar. Mm-hmm. I would argue that Terry and Jahan are far more talented than that wide receiver core.
No doubt.
And, what did he do last year with the most talented wide receiver he's played with? So
exactly.
I kind of agree in the sentiment that he won't be a breakout in year 1. But I think the upside and the floor is a little bit too low, in my opinion. In my opinion. I do think a top 35 wide receiver finish is possible here with Jahan Dotson. And, the upside you gave would be around 4.8 targets per game. And I just think if that's what Washington did with their 1st-round pick, they only gave him less than 5 opportunities a game. Then they really messed up. But Washington has done that before.
Exactly. So
I just hope that we see more 6 to 7 targets per game for him as a rookie. So we'll see.
And
like
I said, it's only based off of what I calculated based off what happened in the past with Carson and everything, and that was the highest I can truly put him. But totally. I definitely can definitely see him. I guess true breakout could be a 35-ish.
Yeah, I think wide receiver 35 is definitely a possibility. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about. So we chose a wide receiver from each other's team. I chose Wandale. I don't know if you saw that, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to go get Washington.
Right, okay,
I'm a Washington fan. He's a Giants fan. Next player I'm avoiding is Wandale Robinson. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the upside for Wandale, and I'm sitting here saying that Jahan's upside was too low, but maybe I've given it too low of an upside, but I'll explain it. But I also feel like between Wandale and Jahan, their roles within an offense are very different as far as what they might be limited in. So let's talk about that. My upside for Wandale in year 1 is wide receiver 45. Okay, 65 receptions, just over 500 yards. His floor, I think, is wide receiver 78, which, I do see a very realistic possibility. He is just lost in the sauce. Okay. Lost in the sauce. So let me tell you why I'm hesitant in his rookie season. Number 1, let's talk about what Daniel Jones really means for a fantasy wide receiver. What does Daniel Jones mean? Well, let's look at the 3 years he's been the starter and what's been his best fantasy finish. His wide receiver 1, the most valuable wide receiver on his team. All right, in 2019, that was Darius Slayton, wide receiver 37. In 2020, that was Sterling Shepard, wide receiver 43. In 2021, Kenny Golladay. Yes, he was the most valuable wide receiver on this team. and he finished as a wide receiver 79. All right. I do love the changes that the Giants have made. And, you know, if I'm honest, I'm kind of jealous that you guys have Brian Daboll.
Right.
I like the changes that have happened. I like the changes to the front office. I like the people that you have brought in. But it has to be noted that Daniel Jones has never produced a wide receiver 3 finish. Wide receiver 3 meaning a top 36 wide receiver. So if you play in a league where you only start 3 wide receivers, you would have never wanted to start any Giants wide receiver in his tenure as a starter. So it's definitely something that we should know. And also, maybe more to the point, I don't actually view Wan'Dale as a number 1 in this team anyway. I view him as a number 3, right? I think Kenny G and then Kadarius Toney are the 1 and 2 here. It might be different in target share. Maybe Toney gets more targets, but I don't think that Wan'Dale will enter as a wide receiver 1. And if we do view Wan'Dale as a wide receiver 3, I don't know how you view him. It's how I view him.
Right.
But then the numbers are even worse for the third best wide receiver in Daniel Jones's offense. And the second thing I'll say is Wan'Dale and Kadarius Toney just doesn't add up. I keep trying to think about why this makes sense, and it doesn't. As soon as I saw the draft pick, the first thing I pictured in my head was the Spider-Man pointing meme. Oh, it's like this. You drafted almost the same player.
Right.
And it's pretty commonly known around the NFL that the most successful wide receiver rooms are teams that build a basketball team, if you will. They have a bunch of complementary pieces. You want a large guy. You want someone who's small and shifty. You want someone who's reliable, right? And I don't know that the Giants are really building that. And I keep hearing people say, well, Kadarius Toney is so injury prone. You know, it makes sense to take a shot here on Wan'Dale, which one, I don't agree with that he's injury prone. Okay. I think he had a rough year 1. I don't think we can label him just yet.
Correct.
But if you're worried about Kadarius Toney being injury prone, you should be way more worried about Wan'Dale Robinson. All right. Kadarius Toney, 6', 190 at the combine. Wan'Dale, 5'8", 178. Okay. If we're actually honest, Badake, Wan'Dale is not a poor man's Kadarius Toney. He is a poor man's Rondale Moore. Genuinely. Okay. If you want to think about it.
Okay.
He is a poor man's Rondale Moore. I liked Rondale Moore a lot last season, a lot out of college, out of Purdue. And I think he was set up in a much better offense to succeed year 1 than Wan'Dale is now. And he didn't have that good of a year. He was kind of lost in the offense. He had a very limited role. He was buried behind more talented players. So that's the last thing I'll say is I do think there's potentially a limited role here for Wan'Dale in year 1. I love these guys. I love Wan'Dale. I loved him as a talent. I love Rondale even more. I think he was a more talented player. And I still think that today. But I think these types of players are very limited in their roles. The most likely role for these types of players like Wan'Dale is a slot wide receiver who can maybe take some carries out of the backfield and he's going to return some kicks, right? Okay. Can't play on the outside at 5'8", 178. You can't do that. You won't be on the field for 1 or 2 wide receiver sets. It just doesn't make sense to have you as a blocker out there. You know what I mean? There's a very limited role for a guy like Wan'Dale. And while I believe in Daboll and I like what the Giants have done this offseason, I don't personally see a scenario where Wan'Dale breaks out year 1. And if he is given a bunch of, because the one thing people keep saying, which really makes me not cringe, I'm just like, careful, is saying that he's kind of like Debo. Oh, they're going to use him like Debo. Well, Debo is built different, guys.
Right.
If Wan'Dale is given that type of workload, guarantee you he will be injured year 1. And it's not because I want him to be injured. It's because his body load will not take that type of work. So I really don't see a breakout for Wan'Dale in year 1. That's how I personally feel. I am avoiding him if possible. Like the talent, just don't see a pathway.
It's tough. You know, without really going completely into, you know, a rebuttal, it's just I think I don't know about the floor and ceiling. I think it's tough because I haven't really thought about his floor and ceiling. All I know is that, in my opinion, from what I do know as a Giants fan, there is a role for Wan'Dale. That's all I can tell you. That's all I've been reading, I've been seeing, and it's not that I don't believe.
What's that role going to be?
He's going to be the slot receiver. And that sounds dumb because you just drafted Kadarius Toney, but from what I understand, he's going to be the slot receiver. He's going to be a gadget person. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
That's
And
all.
again, that's what Rondale was last year too, and it didn't mean fantasy success.
Yeah, and it makes sense. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But once again, without getting through the whole thing, come to one of our lives and we could talk about it. But it's a big answer. It's a big rebuttal. But I don't think it's it will just make the video.
Let's talk about your player.
Yeah. My second player to avoid, and this might be a little bit too obvious, but it's Malik Willis. When I was looking into this, I was like, so many people coming in. Someone like myself, I was really high on Malik Willis coming in. I was like, he could be successful if he goes to this and this team, and he falls all the way to the third round. He goes to the Tennessee Titans, and it just wasn't the case, for Malik. And my upside for him is a QB 25, and that's with him playing 12 plus games. Okay, because the expectation is that he's not going to play every single game, right? And his floor. It's probably one of the worst. Is QB 30. He probably plays less than 7 games. He's going to struggle. He's going to throw a lot of interceptions. He's going to have some really, really bad games. And I think that's pretty realistic because someone like a Zach Wilson, someone like a Justin Fields that didn't play the whole season, they were in the bottom half of the quarterbacks, 25 and less. Okay,
they were set up to succeed more than Malik probably as far as what they did in college.
Exactly, and I've changed my thought process on Malik lately because I was so high on him coming in to the draft, like before the draft, obviously, and then when the draft happened, his draft capital, obviously, I think a lot of people have changed, and I think I do not like this landing spot for Malik Willis. This is a run first offense. I understand that they're on the verge of, in my opinion, a complete rebuild. They got rid of A.J. Brown. You drafted Treylon Burks. Derrick Henry is on his second to last year of his contract. You get Malik Willis. What's going to happen next? And then if we look historically of all these third round quarterbacks, there's not a good run. I can give you a whole list, and there was so much more. Kellen Mond, Will Grier, Mason Rudolph, David Webb, CJ, but they
Beathard. Beathard.
Yeah, CJ Beathard, sorry. Jacoby Brissett, Cody Kessler, Mike Glennon. These are the guys that went in the third round. Obviously, not as talented maybe as a Malik Willis, maybe that has more rushing upside, obviously. But for me, I think it's pretty obvious that I don't believe that Malik is going to be set up for success, and not anytime soon. And I think maybe this is why you should avoid him in year one. Maybe halfway into year two, he's going to still struggle, in my opinion, unless we see a massive, massive talent come into Tennessee, where they get a lot of I don't know, a true wide receiver. Not that they don't have a true wide receiver in Treylon Burks. But like, another running back after Derrick Henry is gone. Maybe they get a good wide receiver too, whatever the case may be. But I don't see the success for Malik moving forward. And another thing is, I try to take it with a grain of salt, but there are so many teams, there are so many articles, there are so many people saying these are the reasons why they didn't say these are the reasons, but they said we didn't believe that Malik was ready. We didn't believe that he could be the guy that can lead our team, to a championship or to a Super Bowl or to wins. And they know more than me. I'm telling you something about fantasy. They completely know his talent. They know his ins and outs. They know everything about this guy. So once again, I try to take this with a grain of salt, but there must be something wrong with Malik. That's how I'm seeing it. I would definitely still take a chance in, third, fourth round of rookie mock drafts, or second, third round of rookie mock drafts. I will still take a chance if I can get him cheap. But for me, I'm just going to be avoiding him his first year. And if I can get him in his second year and I see some upside, I'll take the opportunity. But I just don't know about Malik moving forward, man.
I would definitely agree that year one for him, it looks like the least likely to start in year one based off of what's around him. I would say for me, I like what's around him though. If he was to have to be put into a starting lineup, he's got one of the best running backs in the game. He's got Treylon, one of my favorite wide receivers in the class, and then Bobby Trees is what I was supposed to say. Who's a reliable guy. So I don't think that he's set up for failure. I just don't think that he's ready or that he's going to start. So I kind of agree with that sentiment. Yeah. There are those third round outliers though.
For sure. Russell Wilson, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. There's a couple guys out there, no doubt about it. But historically it's really hard for them to be successful. Totally. And to come to a good team.
Kirk Cousins might have been a fourth round pick. I can't remember, but there are outliers, but the odds are stacked against him for sure. But All right, guys, let us know. Is there a player in particular that you are avoiding year one? And do you disagree with any of these? That's fine. Comment down below.
Yo, what's good? Thanks
up?
for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch
now,
it.
You can also subscribe
Right now.
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLandFam.